At 14, Billy Mansfield dropped out of school and altered his birth certificate to join the Army, soon becoming an alcoholic and a drug user. He would be discharged and referred to a military hospital for treatments. After the military, he would spend time in Florida, Michigan, California, and Nevada, where he would be convicted of battery, kidnapping, and sexual assault on more than one occasion, and in the end be charged with 5 murders. In 1977, Billy pled guilty to a sexual misconduct charge against a babysitter in Grand Rapids, Michigan. He served 6 months and was released with 36 months probation. After being released from jail, he assaulted 2 teenagers and was sent to prison. He shared a cell with a prisoner who confided in Billy about murdering an 11-year-old girl. Billy testified against him for a lesser sentence and was released from jail a year later. In June 1980, in California, he forced 18-year-old Pamela Sherrill into his van. He beat her up and sexually assaulted her. 5 months later, on November 23, 1980, he was arrested in Santa Cruz, California for the assault and battery of Miss Sherrill. He paid the bail and was set free. December 7, 1980, the half-naked body of 29-year-old Renee Selling was found in a drainage ditch in Watsonville, California. She was a mother of 3. She had been strangled to death and her clothes had been torn, with her blouse and pants left down to her ankles. Apparently, she had been seen at a bar with Billy Mansfield and his brother Gary Mansfield. 4 days later, in Nevada, the 2 were taken into custody for questioning regarding Saling's murder. Billy was charged with first-degree murder, his brother Gary with the accessory after the fact. Gary would do a plea deal, turning evidence against his brother. Gary's charges were dropped, and Billy would be convicted in 1981 of Renee Selling's murder and sentenced to 25 years to life in California. Due to Billy being charged with Saling's murder, an informant phoned in an anonymous call to the Hernando County Sheriff's Office back in Florida, stating that there was a body buried on the Mansfield property in Weekie, Wachee. The caller was claiming that the body of Sandra Graham, a 21-year-old Tampa woman who went missing on April 17, 1980, was buried there. In mid-March of 1981, the Hernando County Sheriff's Office began excavating the Mansfield's 5 acres, searching for a body, where they would find 4. On March 17, 1981, the first skeletal remains were retrieved, found buried under a concrete slab in the family workshop, wrapped in a blanket, wire wrapped around her neck and wrist, only identified as a white female, aged 22 to 30, and though numerous attempts have been made, she still remains a Jane Doe 41 years later. A week later, the skeletal remains of Elaine Ziegler were found. She was a 15-year-old from Ohio who was vacationing with her family. She had disappeared on New Year's Eve, 1975, from what was back then the Brooksville, Florida KOA campground. As far as we know, she is the first victim of Billy Mansfield, and that was back in 1975. On April 3rd, the third set of remains would become Jane Doe number 2, identified only as a young girl between the ages of 16 and 17. She would remain a Jane Doe for 41 years after her remains were recovered until July of 2022. April 7th, the one who the tip was called in regarding was finally found. Sandra Graham, 21, last seen in Tampa, Florida on April 27, 1980. The investigation would show that all 4 victims had been sexually assaulted by Billy, his brother Gary, and their dad, William Sr. While all 3 had sexually assaulted them, the investigation would show that it was Billy that would kill and dismember them. The house is known as the House of Horrors. Evidence was found that the victims had been chained up in the house and some on the property in a school bus. They had been tied, gagged, passed around, and tortured. Billy Mansfield pled guilty to avoid the death penalty and received 4 life sentences. As for the two Jane Does, Colorado State University did reconstruction of the skulls. No positive matches were found. In 2020, they were able to create a DNA profile thanks to the University of North Texas and the Virginia-based DNA technology company Parabon Nanolabs. And in July 2022, Jane Doe number 2 was identified as Teresa Fillingham. She was 16, from Tampa, Florida, who disappeared on May 16, 1980, 6 days before her 17th birthday. 42 years have passed since she went missing. Hopefully one day soon, the remaining Jane Doe will have her true identity back as well.